One out there at Econ B land. Today I'm going to go over the in-class, or the rather participation activity, looking at elasticity and its applications. And so this is when we're going to take the application of taxes and look how elasticities affect it and how it affects welfare. We're going to look at the size of government revenue generated and a couple of other things. See how successful this tax is and what it means for a tax to be successful. So the first thing we want to do is look at the graph below for the market for hotel rooms. The government imposes a tax on buyers of $30 per hotel room. We need to find the new quantity, the price for the buyer, and the price for the seller, and then we need to determine the incidence of the tax, how the tax is broken down. To do that, we first have to go ahead and find our new quantity, and we can do that one of three ways. So remember when we were looking at the slides, the first way that we looked at it was by shifting the demand curve. So the way we would do that is shift the demand curve $10, $20, $30. And then you want to take a straight edge because you want to maintain that same slope of the demand curve. So pull that demand curve down $30 lower and then find that new intersection point, and that will give you the quantity demanded if the tax is imposed on buyers. My pencil isn't working. Give me 1 second. Okay. But anyway, so that's one way we can look at it. Remember, who bears the incidence of the tax doesn't depend on who we put the tax on. It depends on where on the elasticity. So we can do the supply side too. Shift that supply curve up by $30 and draw a new supply curve if we want to. And that'll give us the same effect. It'll help us find that quantity supplied. So we can shift the supply curve up $30, shift the demand curve down $30. Either way, we'll get the same outcome. The other thing we can do is move from the origin, move from that point of the equilibrium, and then slide out until we have a tax the size of $30. So that's too small. But there, now we have a $30 tax at a quantity of 80, and it's that same point, right? There's $10, $20, $30, and it's that same quantity that we saw with the new supply curve, with the new demand curve. So 3 ways to determine the size of a tax, right? And you want to make sure, no matter what, that your tax has a size of $30. So now we have our new equilibrium quantity with the tax. So the quantity with the tax is going to be 80 hotel rooms, right? And our original equilibrium was 100 hotel rooms, so we can see that we've reduced the quantity consumed. We next want to find the price that buyers face, and we'll get that by looking at that quantity and the demand curve. The price that buyers pay is now $110. And so we want to go ahead and mark that out. And then the next thing we want to do is find the price that sellers pay. And that comes from the supply curve at our new tax quantity. And sellers are going to get $80. So the price that sellers face is $80. The price that buyers face is $110. And the difference is that $30 tax. The next thing we want to do is look at that original equilibrium of 100 hotel rooms and a price of $100, and that's going to help us understand the incidence of the tax, who bears the burden. So we see that buyers see their price go up by $10, sellers lose $20. So that's our incidence. Buyers are going to pay $10 of the tax, and sellers are going to pay $20 of the tax. Does that make sense? So that's the incidence. And that comes from those relative elasticities, right? We can think about hotel rooms being a luxury good. That demand curve is relatively flat. So consumers see the price of hotel rooms go up and they can say, I don't need a hotel room. Sellers, on the other hand, they have that hotel. They need to sell those hotel rooms to make money, so they can't leave the market as easily, so they bear the incidence. They pay the majority of the tax. And that's what we expect with a luxury tax, right? A tax on something that's a luxury like hotel rooms. Because a owner of a hotel can't just get rid of the hotel rooms, they can't change their supply very easily, they're going to bear the incidence. So the next question we want to answer is, would you consider this tax successful? Why or why not? And it depends on our goals. So one of our goals could be, the tax could be designed to raise revenue. If we want to raise revenue, we have to look at how much that $30 tax made. $30 times 80 hotel rooms gives us a total revenue of $2,400. So that might be successful if that's what you want to do. We can also measure the success of the tax based on this dead weight loss triangle. Remember, when we talked about welfare, we talked about how taxes generate a dead weight loss based on the size of the tax and then size of the economic activity lost, right? So we see consumer surplus shrinks from the area below the demand curve above $100 to below the demand curve and above 110. We also see that producer surplus shrinks, right? It used to be the area below the price line of $100 and above the supply curve. It's shrunk a lot now. Now it's below the price line of $80 and above the supply curve. And then that deadweight loss, that's the economic activity that doesn't take place because those hotel rooms aren't being bought and sold. We can find the area of that deadweight loss by finding the area of a triangle. And it's going to be a triangle that's the size of that deadweight loss. 1/2 of the 20 hotel rooms that aren't being bought and sold times the $30 for the tax, which gives us a deadweight loss of $300. So you can say this is a small deadweight loss, and that's good, that's successful. We can compare the deadweight loss to the revenue. We might also say something like, hey, this is a successful tax because it targeted people who are buying luxury goods like hotels. We could say it's beneficial because it harms sellers or because it doesn't harm buyers. It really depends on your beliefs, on what your motivations are. So as long as your answer to this question has economic rationale and an economic basis, pretty much anything works. So it depends on your goals and what you think was achieved. Sound good? Let me know.